It's honestly wild how much the Punisher has evolved in the MCU over the last decade. First debuting in 2016's Daredevil Season 2 before getting his own two-season Netflix series, Jon Bernthal's version of Frank Castle has largely been defined by a pretty singular goal: vengeance for his murdered family. However, Marvel Studios has just rewritten Frank's character with The Punisher, One Last Kill, a new MCU special that has changed Frank forever. Without a doubt, The Punisher, One Last Kill has fundamentally changed Frank Castle's entire MCU trajectory in the best way possible. Rather than sticking with the typical status quo, One Last Kill sees Castle embodying what it truly means to be the Punisher like never before. As such, it's a pretty exciting prospect ahead of the character's big-screen debut later this year in Spiderman: Brand New Day. That being said, it's also worth noting that the door has now been opened for a very dynamic future for the Punisher beyond Brand New Day, and I'm sincerely hoping that Marvel is viewing One Last Kill as a critical testing ground in light of Frank's new status quo. The MCU has rewritten The Punisher with One Last Kill, and I couldn't be happier. As seen at the very beginning of The Punisher, One Last Kill, Frank Castle has finally completed his long-time goal of killing every criminal and corrupt official involved in the deaths of his wife and children. This was achieved by Frank's recent murders of the Nucci crime family, save for Ma Nucci, Judith Light, who places a bounty on Frank's head as vengeance for the deaths of her husband and sons. Surviving against waves of criminals in Little Sicily, Frank gets the chance to take out Ma Nucci amid all the blood and chaos. However, Frank chooses to protect an innocent family instead, allowing Ma to make her escape while confirming that the Punisher has shifted his priorities in the MCU. Rather than seeking personal vengeance, Castle is now punishing criminals in general, as seen in One Last Kill's ending, choosing to protect the innocent, while still wielding his signature brand of lethal justice. The MCU's Frank Castle is now someone who actively wants to prevent the same kind of suffering he endured with the loss of his family, a solid shift in his typical status quo now that the vast majority of those connected to his family's deaths have been punished. 10 years later, the Punisher's war on crime in the MCU has significantly expanded beyond his own original vendetta. How One Last Kill sets up Punisher's role in Spider-Man: Brand New Day, and beyond. Additionally, it's worth noting that Frank's new status quo makes his role in Spider-Man: Brand New Day make some more sense. Now that his motivations and war on crime have expanded post One Last Kill, there's increased odds of Castle running into other New York heroes and vigilantes, in this case, quite literally with his battle van as seen in Spider-Man: Brand New Day's first trailer when Frank hits Peter Parker during a pursuit. All in all, it's going to be fascinating to see the full extent of Punisher's arc in Spider-Man: Brand New Day in light of One Last Kill, though my fingers are crossed that this is just the beginning of a new MCU era for Frank. All things considered, an MCU Punisher existing beyond personal revenge alone has greater narrative potential for team-ups, additional specials, and perhaps even his own rebooted Disney Plus series like Daredevil, Born Again. Without a doubt, One Last Kill very much feels like a quasi-pilot, proving there are still plenty of stories to tell with Jon Bernthal's Punisher in the MCU beyond Brand New Day.